Let me tell you, this chat is with three of the prettiest ladies, not only in beauty, but in sound and soul. We talk about the music and we talk about the people that created the music. This group, before the Chiffons, before the Supremes, before Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, this was the female group that created the sound that even to this day, all over the world, people marvel. It is my pleasure to present to you the original members of the Chantels. It's my girl, Lois. Hi, Lois.
Hi.
It's little Renee. Hi, Renee.
Hi.
And it's Sonia.
Hey, Jerry. How are you?
Terrific. I must tell the audience, back in the day, you had Lillian Leach. She sang with the Mellows. You had the Rivelaires. You had Ruth McFadden. Uh, you had Jeanette Baby Washington singing with the harp.
Yeah, yeah. Great.
This group, you girls, created a sound. And I got to tell the audience out there, we talk about the Shirelles. I love Shirley. I love Darce, and I love Mickey and Beverly. But do you know that if it wasn't for the Chantels, the Shirelles would have never had their name? Shirley said to me when they began singing, they looked up to you girls and said, we want to develop a sound like these kids have. So Shirley, Chantels, that's it. We'll be called the Shirelles after the Chantels. Did you guys know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Shirley told me that a while back. That was what they wanted. They wanted to be the Chantels.
But Lois, and I'll ask Lois this because we're going to go through the real history of how it began. You kids began, I mean, when I think about the sound which came from the Gregorian chant, as you and I have always spoken about, and that came from you kids going to a Catholic high school and the high Latin mass. How did you develop that, though? What was the inspiration that made you say, this could be something that can be secular with lyrics? How did that happen?
Well, we really didn't think about it. We were trained by a nun who was our music teacher in school and our choir director. Mm-hmm. And she had a standard of how she wanted us to sing. And since Gregorian chant really is not necessarily in parts, if you sing in unison, you had to sound like one voice. So once we cultivated that, when we moved from the chant to 3-part liturgical music, we were perfectly harmonized. And so that's where it came from.
Yeah. But, Sonia, how old were you kids back then, though?
I think when I was in choir, I may have been about, 12, 13 at that time when we would come down after choir and just form a group. And, I'm going to go back a little bit, Lois, and I'm going to say that after we came from choir practice, the songs or the hymns that we were being taught was so inspiring, and we just felt like we had to go back into these songs and go through all these parts together. I'm going way back, Lois, in the beginning. We just wanted to hear and regroup and do those hymns all over again.
Renee,
little did we know that we were harmonizing in only maybe 4 or 5 parts at the time.
Wow. Now, Renee, how old were you when you became a part of it? Because originally there were 5 girls, correct?
There were.
Yes.
And how old were you, Renee?
I was 11.
This, for the audience, this is incredible. Can you see these beautiful teenage girls, 11, 12, 13? singing to become international stars. Now, Arlene, I believe Arlene was the oldest of the group. Am I
No,
correct?
I'm the oldest.
Hello.
I am the oldest.
It's
Lois, you look like you're still a teenage.
Just had my 80th birthday and very proud of it.
Well,
yes, she is.
yes, Dionne Warwick just had her 80th birthday too, you know.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
And we gave Lois this wonderful Zoom birthday gathering.
Montage. Yeah.
Yes,
It
it
was
was
incredible.
wonderful.
Now, let me ask you. So now we've got the story of how it began. And I know 1957, the first song that I heard, because I was on the road with Danny and the Juniors, and we were in Washington, and I heard a disc jockey play He's Gone. I said, oh my gosh, it's the first time that the world heard that harmony. It was 1957.
Yes.
How did you get a recording contract from high school into the record business? At what age were you when He's Gone came out?
Okay.
11.
I was 16. You couldn't have been 11.
No. No.
No,
at that
I
point-
was 16. And
Right.
you're like,
And Renee, how old were you?
I'm going to say 11. I don't care.
no. But you know what? Now, Jerry,
The age really doesn't matter.
I said that I was maybe 12 or 13.
But
But
you
when
know,
I kept quiet, we had no idea that there was going to be a group or anyone at that particular time. So now, by the time He's Gone is around, I'm already like maybe 14 or 15 at that time.
yeah,
You
know,
see? So
that's correct.
girls, it just goes to show you that it was a young business at that time.
oh yeah.
Kids at that time, if they had the right producer or the right person that saw them, it boggles my mind, because if you look at the industry today, I mean, most of these people that are successful at a later age than you kids were. I mean, so I know the story that Richard Barrett is the guy that brought you to George Goldner. George Goldner was the label, and I've spoken about George Goldner. In my opinion, kids, George Goldner was one of the true visionaries. As you
Yeah.
guys know, he started with a Latin label called Tico, and then he did with a label called Rama, and then
Rama,
he did a
Rama
label
Records.
called G, and then he
Yeah.
did a label called End, and also Gone. So 57, you are recording He's Gone on Gone.
Right.
Yeah. How did you get the record contract?
Oh.
I think Richie was responsible for that record contract. I don't think he had any idea of the business. We were very young. We were very innocent. We were sheltered, basically.
Yeah.
And we had no idea of what this business was like or what it was.
Well, you
But
know,
Richie saw us, heard us, and he said, I'm going to make you guys stars. And that was all. The rest of it is really history.
now, you know, I've got to explain when the girls talk about Richard, they're talking about Richard Barrett. Richard Barrett signed with a group called the Valentines. Had
Right.
a record called Lily Mae Bell, Woo Woo Train, was one of the first stars on Rama, other than the Wrens and the Crows back then.
That,
He was responsible for Frankie Lyman and Little Anthony and these beautiful young ladies called the Chantels. Now, we go from 1957. Tell me about what your parents thought
Oh my God.
about.
My mother was not impressed. That was not something she wanted me to be doing. We
No.
were classically based. We only listened to classical music in my house and make-believe ballroom. That was it.
Right.
Until my 16-year-old cousin introduced me to a Black radio station and I had a transistor radio, and then I could get to listen to the music of the day. And I said, oh, and that's how I found out about the Valentines, actually.
Well, you know, back
Lois
then,
she has a totally different background. I don't think too many people know that my heritage. I'm Jamaican,
Yeah.
West Indian, Jamaican.
Yeah.
So, and at that time, my father and mother, they had no idea, like coming to this country, and here's their daughter wanting to run around and sing. My father and mother, well, especially my father, he was a wreck, totally against this. But my mother begged and begged, and I begged her, and they broke down. But you can imagine coming from West Indian parents, that was not,
Renee, how about your parents? What?
My grandmother was born in the Bahamas, so that we had that part of the West Indian background. But my father played the piano, played a jazz piano, and my mother was a jazz singer. So music was already in, that kind of music was already in our family. In fact, my mom received an award for the Apollo Theater, when she won amateur hour one night.
Right.
She stopped singing because she had 7 kids. So she always dreamed, and I always felt her dream to be a singer, but she couldn't be because she had the 7 kids. So her dream came through me.
So you became what your mom wanted to be, which is
exactly. And when Arlene Smith came to her and asked if I could sing, I think because one of the girls dropped out of the group. There were 5, and there were 5 other girls, but one girl dropped out, and she came and she asked my mom if I could sing with her, with the group. And her and Sister Richard Marie, our nun teacher, who's really responsible for our sound, she told them, let her do it, So that's how that happened.
Listen, kids, did you ever, after you started to become successful, well, you were still in high school though, right? You all right. Did you go back and thank Sister Marie, saying, Sister, thank you for, because you kids are, let me tell you what I love about you. You kids are so humble. And I could tell immediately that you came from a Catholic background. Just
really?
I came from a Catholic background. I was raised by the nuns. And if you read my book, my father was a racketeer. So my mother had to get a job as a riveter in the Navy, and he was in and out of jail. So my mother would get a job as a riveter and drop us off at St. Monica's Day Nursery School, the IHM nuns at the age of 4 and 5.
Oh yeah.
So there's something so wonderful about that upbringing. And I wish that more young people today would have a spiritual side, especially in show business, because I think that kept you kids grounded, that you were level. Do you agree on that?
I agree, but I think our parents had a lot to do with it. I mean, Lois's mother really wanted us to continue our education. And I think the rest of our parents followed suit with that. And thank God we did get an education, given how the industry changed, for us.
Very good to us. So to find other careers, and which we did.
Right. Lois, did you ever, in your imagination, ever think that to this day, that music that you kids created is as popular? Think about that now. I mean, you're doing something that you love. You don't look, I mean, it's like what I do or any performer. You do because it's a passion. You do it.
Exactly.
Look at the world today that we lived in. The world will never be the same. But what is the same is the music.
Exactly.
That you kids have created. I mean,
well, what's interesting, and I did send the link to Sonia. Somebody sent me a link, and these twins, brothers, who have a show on YouTube, and it's a link of them listening to the Chantels.
Nice.
Now, these are young kids, like they can't be more than like 19. And it was the first time listening to us, and their reaction to hearing Maybe. They were blown away, and they were making all these comments, and I'm thinking like, oh my God, these little babies are relating to what we were singing how many years ago.
So that was amazing.
They weren't even a thought. It's amazing.
I do segues with you guys for Maybe, How Could You Call It Off, I Love You So, Every Night, because that harmony is so tight that I can take a verse from one song and go right into the next song because it's a story.
Yes.
Everything that you kids did musically was a story about life, about love, about kids growing up, going to the dances back then.
Oh, yeah.
Sonia, you know what's interesting to me, and Lois and also Renee, I don't know today if I can mention any girl group that is doing what you guys did back in the day. Can you think of any girl group? I mean, when was the last time?
No,
Child did a nice job with their harmonies. They were very good, you know, with Beyonce and
Right.
Miss Cole and them. Patti LaBelle did nicely too.
yeah, but back in the day, I think we did everything that we could do to be as original as possible, down to the fact that I'm not even sure. I always try to find or research to see if we could find a girls group who actually started a band back in those days. We actually recorded an instrumental. I don't know if you remember when the instrumentals were very big during those days.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
the Chantels recorded an instrumental where
A couple.
each one. Do you remember the name of that song, Lois? Each one of us. Was it Chantels Rock or something we did? Chantels Rock.
Listen,
But each one of us.
listen, tell me about when it was Richard Barrett and the Chantels with Summer Love, okay, and then
Oh my gosh.
Road Jack.
Well,
I think
Lois Love, we were just fooling around. He was
That's right.
plunking out some stuff, and he was
At the
testing out one of the
piano.
songs he wrote. And we were hanging out, and so we
Yeah.
started to just make harmony to go with it.
Yeah,
And next thing we knew, it was a record.
yeah. I remember Lois and I, we were standing by the piano
Yeah.
and we were just,
harmonizing.
and the next thing we know, they recorded that.
Yep.
And it was just two of us that was singing.
Mm-hmm.
I was just harmonizing, you know? And here we are. Now it's three, Richard, Lois, and Sonia. You know? And they recorded that, Jerry. They put that
I
out.
know. I
I
play
had
it.
no idea.
So listen, from 57 to 59, gone NG, the whole thing. And then you guys leave, and Richard takes you to Carlton Records.
Right.
Joe Carlton. In between, though, of course, Arlene leaves. Is she
Yes.
still teaching school? Arlene is still teaching?
No, she retired some years ago.
Yeah.
So, okay. So tell me about this group called the Veneers.
Oh, the Veneers, that's where Richard, when Arlene retired, Richard found this young lady, fabulous singer, Annette, and her cousins.
Uh-huh.
They had the group, the Veneers, and that's where Richard had found this young lady who recorded with us.
I see. I
You
got
see
you.
what I'm saying?
But nothing to do with the Chantels, because many people are confused about that.
Oh,
No.
no.
These are the real Chantels. And when you went to Carlton, look in my eyes is
Yes.
the first thing, right?
That's right.
Then one of my all-time favorites, when you went into the early 60s, Eternally,
Yes.
Okay.
which I tell you, who picked the material for you guys? I know many of you kids wrote the material, but who picked it and said, see,
Well,
in
you know,
this business, you have to have an ear. You see,
Richard was around in those days, during those days.
Mhm.
And it was what Richard picked, you sang and you recorded. So he was the manager, and whatever the songs that he picked, that's what we did.
Richard is
And by that time, I was not in the group at that time.
Right.
I didn't do the Carlton and
No.
the Dix and all of that.
uh,
I was out of the group by then.
Mhm.
And the guy who used to manage the Shirelles, he brought us another lead singer who
Luther Dixon.
was that
We were
Luther
almost with
Dixon?
Luther.
Luther
Yeah.
Dixon?
Luther Dixon. We were almost with Luther for a short period, but we don't know the business and we don't know what happened, so it didn't work out. Same thing with Carlton Records. Richard was driving the train, so
Yeah.
it's a little different.
For the people out there, Luther Dixon was a great songwriter, but more,
Yes.
Yeah, he
And he had Florence Greenberg or something that.
Lawrence Greenberg owns Scepter Records.
Mhm.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
owns and do you know that Luther wrote one of the early things for the Crest six
No.
channels? He was a great
No.
writer, and
Mhm.
very much responsible. For you people watching these chats, it's such a great history lesson to know about where all these wonderful performers came from, where the music took them.
Yes.
Here
Yes.
are these beautiful ladies today
Yes.
who began as kids. You never really thought, I'm sure, that this was going to continue, did you, kids?
Absolutely not. No way. I was just having fun, you know. What do you want to say? I was tagging along, maybe back in the day, and all of a sudden I'm thrust into a girls group that's on tour, that's all over the place recording,
Now
and
you
begging my father and my mother, I want to stay with my friends. I want to sing. What about school? What are you gonna do? Blah blah
but
blah.
now in the early days, you guys traveled with other groups, right? I remember me doing the one-nighters on the buses. Did you ever do the bus tour?
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yes, we did.
Back in 1959 was when I had graduated. I graduated from high school in 58,
Mhm.
and then I rejoined the group. And
Was that the
one of the
Allen
first things that we did was a 6-week tour of one-nighters in the deep South.
Oh God. Was that
And
Allen? Wait.
that was an experience
Yes.
in and of itself.
Was that the Allen Free tour, Lois, or
Even Dick Clark, Dick Clark and
Dick
Irving
Clark?
It
Phil.
was a.
Or maybe
I don't think it was Dick Clark. I think it was
Dick
either
Clark?
Murray Decay or Alan Freed.
Now,
yes?
who were some of the other artists that were on that tour?
Oh, man.
Laverne Baker,
Oh wow!
the Crest.
Yes.
Was that the one with Paul Anker?
I don't know if Paul was on it, but it was
there.
it was Anthony and the Imperials, I believe. Yes, Anthony and the Imperials.
Happy birthday. What's the name of that group?
The Tune Weavers.
The Crest.
Yes, the
The
Tune
Tune-
Weavers.
The Tune Weavers. Yeah, there was a bus full of people.
Did you have a chaperone, kids?
Oh yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh yes.
Listen, did you ever work with Frankie Lyman?
Oh,
Yes, we
many
did.
times.
Yes, we did.
Was he a little devil?
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Yes, he was.
Oh,
Oh,
Absolutely. A PIA.
yes.
that's that Catholic upbringing. Let me ask you, what did your parents think about you going on the road?
Oh God.
But I think by that time they come to the conclusion that you kids are all right, right?
Yeah. Yes, because we had to have a chaperone. Everything was in order with school. We were on a correspondence course at that point. We just couldn't. We had to go to school. So we were in school. So we had a tutor also and a chaperone. And there were times when we had family members who would chaperone the group.
Now, who handled the financial end for you guys? Because nobody knew what the financial end
Oh,
was.
listen,
George Goldner.
that's right. That's another story within
And
itself.
that's a whole,
Another
yes,
chat.
absolutely.
Because when you got back, you just saw the statements with all this,
Expenses.
Well, I'm going to give you another name, Jack Hook. I don't know if you remember who Jack Hook was. Jack Hook was
I don't remember Jack.
Alan Freed's manager.
Oh,
if you
okay.
remember back then.
Yes.
And it's so interesting because back then, rock and roll was a man's business. It was that, but when the girls came along, you made it the ladies' business. And you kids opened up the door, as I did say, for the Shirelles and for the Supremes and for the other girl groups.
Thank you.
Accepted into the world of rock and roll.
Yeah.
I don't know if you realize that, Lois, how important the statement that you guys made and your harmony completely different. Do me a favor. Give me a little.
What's gonna happen?
Stop. Go ahead. You can do it. Go ahead. Because when you guys do the Kimmel Show with me, and when we do the shows together, I asked you to do that with no music. And ladies and gentlemen, the audience, you could hear a pin drop when these kids just harmonize with that wonderful, wonderful chant and that whole that's I marvel at what you kids accomplished because your sound is unique. The sound of the Chantels is unique more so than any of the other sounds. I mean that. Now, segueing again with Golder, little Anthony, who loves you guys. I said to Anthony, I'm going to talk with Lois and Sonia and with Renee. Said, oh, please, if we could have gotten them on, could we do that next time? Get 4 people on? Yeah. Next time, we'll get 4 of you guys on just talking about the old days. Tell me about the rehearsal process before you would go into the studio, before you would nail it. You rehearsed first?
Sometimes we didn't. Sometimes we went into the studio right after we came off tour in the middle of the night, and we would just sing the songs. We had our own way of putting our harmonies together, and our harmonies always had to be like a separate song.
Yeah. But we sort of knew where we were going with our harmony. We had to hear the song, and everybody knew where their part supposed to be. Should have been. And so we would hear the song. We could do that now, not today, but if we heard a song, we knew that we could sit and each person knew what
their part was.
Right. And so, but that had nothing to do with, actually preparing for recording. We had to rehearse.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you a question, girls. There was a brief period of time when our music was not the music of the day. Okay. Did you kids figure, well, this is it? I mean, we're going to have to do something else because it's not going to happen again as it did back then?
I think we are who we are. And whatever we sing, it could be that we're singing jazz or Latin or whatever. We still sound the same. We ourselves, and I think people have the wrong impression. No one taught us our harmony. We put our harmony together ourselves. With Lois's musical training, Sonia has a great ear. I have a great ear. And plus Lois plays the piano. Back then, Arlene played piano also. So we and Jackie too. So we were always very musically inclined, and we put our harmony together ourselves, and I think that's why it's so different.
Lois, we talk about influences. Tell me about your early influences. I'm going to give you I loved Sarah Vaughan. I loved Ella Fitzgerald. I loved Donald Washington. Were you kids into that? Were you into that, or
I listened to Lena Horne and not Sarah Vaughan. It was mostly the people that I heard, which I'm trying to think. Her name escapes me. She was just anyway. But people like Lena Horne, right. And because I didn't really know too much about any of the other stuff until I was about 17 when my cousin introduced me to jazz. And I was so taken by that and by jazz instrumentals and then jazz vocalists that drew me into the jazz component and making different chords and sounds to go with that. But, jazz was a great influence. Yeah.
Sonia, how about you?
Well, as we went along, I was learning more about, the American culture and the music. And I was actually learning as I went along because we listened in those days. I don't know, we had Andy Williams and, people like that was on television.
Johnny Mathis.
Johnny Mathis, so that was the current songs for me. But
Because
I learned about rock and roll music, and as we went along, especially Lois was like, she knew all the groups, and she knew the music more than the rest of us. Of course, we were younger. Renee and I, we were younger, so
Not that much younger. 2
Yeah,
years,
but
3 years.
I don't know. I don't know if it was being. I don't know what it is. Maybe it was being
let's
my
talk.
culture at home. I don't know. That you just went.
All I listened to was jazz. My dad played jazz all the time. It wasn't until maybe he went to sleep that we would turn on the rock and roll music. But I call myself a jazz singer. I love jazz. I listen to Sarah, Dinah.
Yeah.
And my father, he played the guitar.
You kids mentioned the Vern Baker.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we remember the
And Ruth
Baker.
Brown.
Oh, she was fabulous on stage. Now,
I mean, there's something interesting too, which you kids, it just hit my mind. Back in the day, if the little R&B artist had a local hit, it would be covered by the big artist on the major label, like Tweedledee.
Yeah.
Georgia Gibbs had the hit back then.
Yeah.
No one was able to cover your records because of that harmony. The closest thing that I heard was when Stevie Wonder did "He's Gone" with Sarita, his wife at that time. Have you heard that version?
Yeah, I heard it.
Okay, and the other version was by the Royalettes. When Don Costa,
the Royalettes,
they did "He's Gone," but that's an interesting fact. None of the other major, the Fontaine sisters couldn't do maybe. The McGuire sisters.
Jerry, I remember going back years ago, and I remember they were telling us about this disc jockey that was breaking, what was the expression? When the song became a hit and the disc jockey...
He broke the record.
Yes, and I remember your name from that time. And this disc jockey, Jerry Blavat, broke, maybe. I didn't understand what they were talking about.
Well, let me tell you what happened.
As the years went by, I realized that he helped make your song a big hit.
Well, kids, I've had the God-given freedom to play my music. We're doing this from a studio. I built this studio. I go through 45 records.
Wow.
I go through albums, but I had the freedom back then. Back then, radio was not what it is today.
Oh.
Back then, disc jockeys had to play what was on the list. It was format radio. I never did that. I would walk in, and that's why Dionne Warwick and I, to this day, are really so close. Because Florence Greenberg did not want to release "Don't Make Me Over."
Oh my!
Demo, because she
that's fabulous.
Tommy Hunt.
Yeah.
And Dionne and her sister Dee Dee and her cousin Sissy did all the background harmony.
Yeah.
Bert let me hear Dionne's version. It was a demo. I took it back to Philadelphia, Camden, and I played it. She called up screaming because the record stores were calling, "What's the song that the Geator's playing?" She said, "Man, Dionne is a backup singer with Dee Dee and Sissy." I said, "But she's a star. You can't hold her back." The same thing happened with Frankie Valli and Sherry. The same thing happened with the Isley Brothers. So I was blessed, as you kids were blessed, to develop your sound. I developed the Geator with the heater being the record. I played a sang, wop, 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 and chica, pop, pop. Because I felt them, and that rap came from the music that I was playing.
Rapping a long time, Jerry.
I was 13 years old. You gotta get your copy of the book. You kids were talking about how young you were. I was 13 when I met Sammy Davis Jr., man. I was dancing.
Oh, goodness.
And Sammy said, "Hey, man, where'd you learn those moves?" I said, "Hey, everybody."
Fabulous.
He said, "You're not white me." 1953. I said, "What?" It was Sammy Davis.
Yes.
Became friends until he died. He
Yes.
was 64 years of age,
Yeah.
May the 16th,
Uh,
1990.
Jerry, could we take a moment and just to reflect on Mary Wilson for
Yes,
a brief moment?
yes.
We're so sorry, and we just need to extend our greatest sympathy and to the family and her children. You know, we had the pleasure of meeting with Mary a few years back. You know, she had the stamps. Remember, Lois, the stamps, and she brought all these girls groups together.
It's about 11 groups.
11 groups, and she invited the Chantels out. And that was the first time, you know, I actually had a chance to meet her and see how gracious she was. And so vibrant, and what a personality, and a great artist, you know. So
Do you know Renee and, and Lois and
Sonia,
you know? But no, you know, I did the last interview.
did you really?
Yes, on the chat with her,
Oh my.
and we were scheduled to do the Malt Shop Memories cruise, which you girls have done, and
Yes.
I'm sure you're going to do it again with us, with Anthony and that. And she passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
What was it? About 4 weeks after we did.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
Mhm.
So, but you know what I love what you said, Sonia. We are family.
Yes, we are.
You are family. All of the performers that perform are about family and are a show business family. It's about family. And that's when America was young, where you're able to follow your dream.
That's
And
right.
people helped you. And music had no boundaries, regardless of race, color, or creed.
That's
Music
true.
is universal for all people. And I
Yes.
think that young people have to, you know, we learn about the future when we visit the past. You can't live in the past, but you
No.
can see the things of the past that will take you to the future. And that's why your music will always be, when I'm gone, by the grace of God, I hope we all live to be 105. When you
Very.
Uh,
think that the music will live
Yeah.
on.
maybe
We
not.
also want to thank Jerry. We also want to thank everyone who's been following with us. We hope that everyone is well, being safe during this pandemic, and wishing everybody the best. We love you, you know, for following us and supporting us for all these years. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's always amazing to get to the audience and see the place packed with people who know every single word of our songs, know every note that we're going to sing. You know,
I see Lois smiling. Look at Lois smiling. I'm sure you agree, right, Lois?
Because it's true. I mean, when we were performing, up to the very last performance that we did, the audience response, and we feed off that. You know, we sing for them.
Yes.
A lot of times we sing for us, but we really sing for the audience, and they are so appreciative. And some of the stories that have been told by some of the people in the audience about how we affected their lives. I mean, that to me is still so hard for me to even wrap my brain around. And it just keeps me humble. That's, you know, it just keeps me humble.
Did one of you kids write a book?
yes, I did. I did. It's called Maybe My Memoir,
Right.
and all about us. If you could see it here.
I love that. Oh, look at you.
All about us.
It's about my life and growing up and how I became a Chantel
Uh-huh.
and
Right.
what we're doing now.
Well, you know, I think it's important that, you know, I've written a book too called You Only Rock Once. And I talk about what we spoke before when Sonia said, you know, you heard about this guy breaking records. It was the freedom back then that we
Yeah.
had to follow
Yeah.
the dream and the passion. And I'm glad, Renee, that you've written a book. And I think you two kids should also write a book about the reflection of the world back then for young people to read. Because, you know, my book is about, I didn't intend to be where I am today.
Yeah.
I started out, I was Danny the Junior's road manager. I worked with you
Really?
guys, with little Anthony and the Imperials and Frankie, and I worked with, remember the Ponytails? Born too late to be
Yeah.
in love.
Yes.
We worked all those things. And then what happened is when I got off the road, I became Don Rickles' valet. And I had
Very
met
nice.
family. So,
We didn't know you.
You moved from there.
But you know,
yeah,
Jerry, and these are wonderful memories, but there is also a dark side to the business.
yes.
And I think because we were so exploited as a group, as were many of the groups that came out, but we were the one of few girl groups who were out in that era. And we really were exploited by a lot of people in the industry. And so it was kind of a bitter, sweet
Bitter
thing for
experience.
us. But the joy in my heart now is that the people who have come after us have kind of learned how to take control of their own destiny and
True.
to be involved on a large scale in terms of where, the production and all of the rest of that goes with it. And so they're doing well. And I have always thought, we were there for a reason. We came along for a reason.
Well,
Because if we had done it 10 years later, I don't know where we would be.
well, see, the situation back then, kids, was that the record companies had the lawyer that drew up the contracts for the artist. Today, the artist has the lawyer who draws up the contract
Exactly.
Exactly.
before
Right.
they sign. And in reality, as I look, and you're so right, Lois, but as I look back at that, we didn't know about the business end. We
No,
just
we
wanted
didn't.
to be performing and going,
No.
hey, I heard your record last night. They go back to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Wow, we love that record. So we learned, and you're right, Lois. You
But for us, Jerry, we were so young. Our parents had no idea about this business at all, let alone us. So it was like we were just there to be taken advantage of as far as the business was concerned.
Well, I think the only way you made money was by working the tours or by working the clubs or
That's
working
right.
the engagement, because they had to pay you. Maybe they didn't pay you what you had to get paid. Because you remember when you did the Alan Freed show, if you got $800 a week for 5 girls doing 3 shows a day and then a midnight show on the weekend, that was a lot of money.
Yes, it was.
That was the only money that you ever made back then. So in reality, and I had a wonderful talk back then with Ronnie Isley, and he said, Geator, we never made money from the record. He said,
No.
I make money now because I owned everything. I owned Neck
Yeah.
Records. And you know who was the smartest kids? Lloyd Price.
Yes,
Yep.
it was.
Lloyd Price, he wrote everything. He owned the publishing.
Yep.
So, it's a whole different business. But
Yes.
Brown did that. So
yeah, give me, good. I'm sorry, Sonia, you were going to say something, love?
Well, I'm just thinking, thank God we made it through.
Mm-hmm.
We had to regroup and find other ways to make a living. And so each one of us went back to school and had our own career. I taught. Lois is a nurse practitioner. He's a writer.
Well, by the way, how did you kids feel when Richard put together the 3 degrees? Because the 3 degrees were really the Chantels, in my opinion, when
Yes.
you look in my eyes, the 3 degrees, how'd you feel about that? Because he was your mentor, he was your producer, he was the man that discovered you, and then all of a sudden he's got the 3 degrees,
Well,
I think sometimes that he learned how to run the business of show.
Right.
I think it's very, very important that we're a business. We sang because we love to sing. It didn't matter to us whether we got paid or not, really.
Yeah.
We just love to sing, and we still love to sing today, But Richard knew how to run a business, and that's where the 3 degrees came in.
But I believe at that point, we were not, we had it. We were managing our own career at that time. And I think Richard he had to find his way because he's always loved this music. So he got the 3 degrees together. And
How about you, Lois? What were your thoughts on that, Lois?
As far as Richard,
Yeah.
I just think that Richard was Richard, and Richard had a sense of, I need to be in control. And as the girls got, because by this time I wasn't singing with them.
Right.
And I think that the girls grew up and they had thoughts of their own and they had ideas of their own. And Richard would say, I want it done this way. And the girls would say, no, I think we should do it this way. So it got to be a bit of a struggle.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, there was never any love lost. I mean, Richard loved us and we loved him. And, that was witnessed when he died and we were at his funeral.
You know who
so
loved kids too? Julie, Richard's wife.
Yes.
mhm.
She adores you kids. She's the
Great.
David, how
Great.
much time do I have left?
15 minutes.
15 minutes. Let's sum this up. 5 little girls love what they doing, going to church, choir, learning. Looking back at all this, and you explained what used to be the ups and downs, but you wouldn't trade this for anything in the world. Am I correct in assuming that?
You're so right. You're right. And even now, when we get on the stage, it's like someone sprinkled little dust on our heads, and we become princesses every time. We really forget all of the ailments. We could be crippled, we could be in pain or anything. But once we get on that stage and start singing, I'm telling you, it's the best feeling in the world.
it's magical. It's magical.
How about you, Sonia?
Well, I think Renee pretty much summed it up as far as that's concerned. Being on stage and loving the audience, you just can't duplicate that feeling.
Yeah.
And it's hard just to pull away from this music.
Yeah.
It's
And
hard.
I think Lois.
Fans and
I think Lois, even with the disappointments that all of the artists have, you still feel the same way as the kids that you're blessed.
I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a thing. Even as much as what we know now, if we knew then,
yeah.
maybe it would have been different. But if I go back in memory, it was just a wonderful time. We were carefree. We just wanted to sing. And we were given the ability to be able to do that.
Let me ask you this, kids. Who are some of your favorite performers during that period of time? Anthony, we talk about Lyman, you talk about the Cleftones. Who are some of your favorite performers?
The Flamingos.
Gladys Knight.
Gladys Knight, the Flamingos, Billy Ward and the Dominoes early on. And the Velvelettes, who a lot of people don't know. I love the Velvelettes, their music, just their stage presence.
Needle in the haystack. How about you, Renee? What tell me about
I love watching Lee Andrew and the Hearts. They're
boy.
so incredible.
Yeah. Now, I'll tell you kids a story what happened with Lee. You've done the Kimmel Show with me many times, and Lee was a dear friend of mine, and his son, as you know, is Questlove, the drummer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I said to Lee, I want to put you, because I had him work with me at Memories of Margate, my club, and I said, Lee, I want to book you at the Kimmel Center. He said, Geator, I'm done. He said, I don't want to be in show business anymore. He said, I worked for UA, I worked for this record company, he began in 1951, White Cliffs of Dover. That I never got a dime. He said, you were the only one that ever paid me.
Unbelievable.
And he said to me, if I don't want to do it. So, the thing that I loved, what Lois, you expressed, you've never become disillusioned. But I can understand where you can get beat up, man.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't do it anymore,
Yeah.
But Lee Andrews in the Hearts, man.
Great. Great sound.
And you know what? I forgot about the Bobettes. We used to have so much fun
yeah.
with the Bobettes.
Miss Lee,
All of the girls groups, Shirley and
Shirley.
you know,
Yes.
the Shirelles, all of the girls groups that we
Wait.
worked with, they were fabulous.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, kids, you remember the cookies?
Yes,
Yes.
Now,
yes,
I'll tell you something. Do you know that the cookies became the Rayettes?
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, they were the cookies. Margie. They became the
wow,
Rayettes.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Good singers too, boy. They had some
You
Yeah.
know,
fabulous singers.
In our act today, we do one of the Supreme songs, and we used to sing one of the Bobbett songs also. But right now we do the Supreme song, which is great and fun.
Mr. Lee. 1, 2, 3. Mr. Lee.
Yes.
loved it.
Okay.
You know, one of my all-time favorite groups, so really going back, were the Hearts.
Yes.
Baby, lonely nights, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Lonely days, baby. Got your great big bunch of sugar. You kids
great.
opened up the door.
Jerry, you would not believe we worked with so many of the groups. Even the Detroit people, Smokey
Yeah.
Robinson, and
Yeah.
we had
Yeah.
so much fun. Gosh,
You know,
those were the days.
it's so good to see you kids. I mean, especially, it's like Anthony said to me, he said, Geator, man, he said, if you weren't doing this with me, he said, I'd be sleeping. He said, I need what you're doing. We got to get together. So I said, look, we will get together and we'll do more chats like this. And you know what we'll do? We'll get some of our friends on it,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
Great idea. Great idea.
Yeah, and you said something really, which is with Mary Wilson. We got to love who is with us today.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's promised to nobody. And let's just keep it going. And I want you to know I love you kids. And you will be working with me again.
Oh, sure.
The Kimmel Center, the casinos, because you ladies represent a class and style from yesteryear to today that is so much needed in show business. Because when you kids come out on stage, bop, 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 you get up, you sing, you're dressed to the T's, you look beautiful, and you make people happy. So Renee, thank you, pretty lady.
Thank you. Thank you. We love you. You're about to make us cry, Jerry.
Well, I think crying is good because it clears. Yeah.
I think so.
But Sonia, what can I tell you except thank you?
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay, and
Really appreciate it.
my pleasure. And you, Lois, my piano player. Thank you. Thanks, Lois. Thanks.
Thank
You're
you.
so
Jerry.
welcome. It's
Jerry.
a pleasure.
Stay
Thank you.
safe. And we will
Yes,
see
you
other-
too.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
And
Bye,
listen,
Jerry.
yeah, Renee, where can they get the book, by the way, before we leave?
Roast Dog Bookstore, Durant's Bookstore.
Uh-huh.
Let me see, I wrote it down here somewhere. Just Durant's Bookstore.
Okay.
Durant, R-A-N-C-E. They're in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
All right. And Amazon.com, Barnes and Noble.com, Kindle, Yahoo. It's online.
Right.
It's definitely online.
All right, so folks, get the book. It's just another part of the history of our industry and of a girl group that began in singing where they live, where they are. And let me remind you also that our book now, there are 3 screenplays on the book. And people say to me, when is it going to happen? There is so much in our book.
Yeah.
You Only Rock Once, going back when I was 13, On the Road, with Danny and the Juniors, with Don Rickles, with Sammy Davis, and how I became a dancer, how I got into the radio. Because kids, I never expected to be in radio. It happened by accident. So the best things in life are things that happen if you're free and if you have a passion. My passion as the Chantels' passion was, making people happy with music.
Yes.
If they sing,
Yes, that's
I
the
play
bottom
their
line.
music, and it
Right.
makes me happy. So until we do it again, my book, you can get it on Amazon.com. Remember this, you got to keep on rocking, girls, because you really only do rock once. Thanks.
That's right.
I hear
It's true.
Bye-bye.